This episode of Basics is presented by The Singleton. The Singleton is an award-winning single malt that tastes great from the first sip. It's great neat, over ice, or mixed into a cocktail. Perfect for someone who is new to Scotch. Today I'll be mixing it up in a refreshing tasting cocktail to enjoy while you hang by the grill with friends. Let's get down to basics. Alright, so today we're making souvlaki. First thing we gotta do is negotiate our meat, the most common candidates for which are pork and chicken. So I got myself a pair of pork tenderloins here that I'm going to disassemble down into 1-inch pieces, and likewise with a few pounds of chicken breasts. These are the most traditional meats used, but you could probably use whatever you want, as long as it doesn't taste bad. Once we got everybody broken down into 1-inch cubes, it's time to marinate. Per 2 pounds of meat, we're gonna combine 3 ounces of olive oil, 1 tablespoon dried Greek oregano, 2 ounces of lemon juice, 1 tablespoon of honey, a teaspoon of kosher salt, and half a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, plus 2 crushed and minced garlic cloves. The pastier, the better, so you can see that I'm pressing and smearing my garlic, so there won't be any big chunks stuck to the outside of the meat, so it won't burn. Throw your meat in a food-safe container, pour the marinade over top, and give it a massage, ensuring even coating and deep penetration of flavors and tenderness. Then we're covering these guys up and fridging them for at least 1 hour, up to 12. In the meantime, we can optionally make the other stuff that goes on souvlaki. First up, and perhaps easiest, tzatziki sauce. We're starting by grating and lightly salting 2 cucumbers in the large holes of the box grater and squeezing them out, not only creating delicious cucumber juice, but some slightly more dry cucumbers, which we're going to combine with 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt, a tablespoon of red wine vinegar, 1 clove of garlic crushed, a 1/4 cup of fresh dill packed and chopped, about a half teaspoon each of kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper, and 2 tablespoons of high-quality Greek olive oil. Go ahead and mix this up, perhaps in a slightly larger bowl, until it's the creamy, homogeneous sauce that Greek dreams are made of. Now, if you really want to go crazy, you can make your own pita. Now, I've got a batch of pizza dough here that I've had cold fermenting in the fridge for 3 days. If you don't want to make your own, you can grab a ball of pizza dough from your favorite grocer, because pizza dough makes an excellent pita dough. I'm starting by dividing it into 160-gram pieces that I'm going to roll into tight, taut little balls and place on a parchment-lined baking sheet for proofing, either under oiled plastic wrap or in a proofing drawer for 1 to 2 hours or until they've grown by about 50%. In the meanwhile, I've got a carbon steel skillet that I'm cutting a piece of parchment paper into a round just slightly larger than its bottom. And we're going to place this strange contraption over on the stovetop while we prep our dough. We're generously coating each piece on each side with semolina flour. Then we're going to start by poking it repeatedly out to size as much as possible before beginning stretching. Then, slowly but surely, we can start stretching and pressing it out into about an 8-inch round. Go ahead and keep that and the other dough under a damp towel while we get ready to fry. We're placing the paper pan over medium-high heat with a squirt of water both underneath and over top the parchment paper, along with a little squirt of neutral flavored oil. Go ahead and cover that, let it preheat for 1 to 2 minutes until everybody's bubbly and steamy and smoky and ready to receive our round, which we're going to carefully lay down flatly in the middle of the pan, making sure there are no creases or overlaps. Cover and cook for anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes until the edges become pale and flat and are starting to brown, kind of like a pancake. Give it a flip once it's charred, add a little squirt of water if necessary, cover, reduce the heat to medium, and finish cooking for another 3 to 5 minutes on the second side. This should yield a warm, puffy, delicious charred pita, which we're going to keep warm and help them retain moisture by covering with a clean dish towel and keeping them in a stack. Rinse and repeat with the remaining pita, and look at that, a steaming stack of homemade, fluffy, crispy pita. These obviously take a little bit of effort, but they're worlds better than anything you're going to get in the store. Now, if you really want to go insane, you can make your own Greek-style French fries. You might notice them filling this pan with olive oil because we are going to deep fry our fries in olive oil. You want to make sure to use light or non-extra virgin olive oil because we're heating this stuff to about 375 degrees Fahrenheit, past the smoke point for extra virgin olive oil. We're also going to use some frozen store-bought fries, which are par-fried before they're frozen, so it's basically recreating the step that we would take to make fries at home. Now you'll notice that this first batch is way too crowded. This cools off the oil too much, preventing the fries from properly browning even during a protracted cooking time. As you can see, a batch with only half the fries I had frying in the last batch turn out browner, goldener, and crispier than their overcrowded brethren. So don't save the time if you can't live with the crime. You're right, that doesn't really make sense. Next up, we're soaking our wooden skewers for about 30 minutes in water. This is a debatably necessary step because the sticks still tend to burn, and science shows us that the water doesn't penetrate the wood very deeply in that amount of time. So, I don't know, maybe don't do this before beginning to skewer on your meats of choice. You want to leave about a 2-inch handle at the bottom and virtually no room at the top of the stick, so that they are at maximum meat capacity while still having a handy handle to manipulate the kebabs on the preheated grill, which is where we're headed. Just as soon as we're done making our Souflaki Spices, combining 1 teaspoon each kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper, and garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of dried thyme, and 2 tablespoons of dried oregano. This is the spice mix that you can finish your souvlaki with and make a sort of post-grilling lemon brush by combining half a cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice and a few generous pinches of our Souflaki spice mix. Now I've had my gas grill preheating on maximum heat for about 10 minutes. I'm going to give it a spirited brushing with a wire brush and lay down my souvlaki kebabs on where I know the hottest parts of my grill are. Shut that down, maybe drop the heat down to medium. If you're on a gas grill, keep it covered and grill about 3 to 5 minutes per side. These times and instructions can vary wildly thanks to about a million factors, namely your grill. So the general idea is to get a nice char on all sides and get the chicken up to about 155 degrees Fahrenheit and the pork up to 145. Set those aside and keep them warm because finally we are brushing down our homemade pita with Greek olive oil and grilling it for about 1 or 2 minutes per side until they've got a deeper char and they're heated through. And with that, everything's cooked and we can start assembling our souvlaki. First, we can give our meat that optional lemon and herb brush down that I was talking about. Then we're going to grab our pita, throw it down on a square of light gauge aluminum foil, give it a generous all-over spread of tzatziki. Then, if you're a real souvlaki pro, you can use the bread to take the meat off the skewer. I obviously found it challenging, so you could also just take the meat off with a fork and throw it in the sandwich. Flank your meat of choice with some thinly sliced tomatoes, top it with some sliced red onion, a couple of whole parsley leaves if you want to be fancy about it, a handful of french fries, a gluggle of high-quality Greek olive oil, a pinch of our spice mixture, and there you have it. Entirely and optionally homemade, from-scratch souvlaki. To wrap it up, we're meeting 2 corners of the square in the center and folding up the bottom of the foil, creating a sort of meaty, snacky Greek cornucopia. This is a positively essential sandwich experience, and the more you make yourself, the more it really comes through in the flavors and textures. And now, all it needs is a light, refreshing tasting cocktail to enjoy by the grill. Starting by spraying down a tall Tom Collins glass with absinthe, adding 1 1/2 ounces of the Singleton 12-year-old, the juice of 1 to 2 limes, depending on how lucky you are in life with limes, and then topping the rest of the way with ginger beer. Give it a little stir, garnish with a lime wheel and fresh mint, and there you have it, the Speyside Mule. Happy grilling season. Thanks again to the Singleton Single Malt Scotch Whiskey for partnering with me on this episode and more episodes to come this year. If you're intimidated by Scotch, don't be. The Singleton 12-year-old is easy to enjoy because it's light, slightly sweet, versatile, and approachable. This means you can come up with a fun signature cocktail to pair with whatever you're grilling this summer. To get a bottle for yourself, head to the link in the video description.